We have nary a moment to screw around today, friends. It's a 15-game Monday card, and we are previewing all 15 games here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Welcome to the show. I'm Dan Besbris, at Dan Besbris on Twitter. I'll see you guys over there afterwards. I know I will, because we'll be updating all of these things as we go throughout the day. Everybody is playing. Everybody. And there's a story from almost every single team. So on today's show, we're going to be looking at every single team, what we're going to be watching for during tonight's ball games, what actionable items those might take us to, and then the injury replacement board, which is getting out of damn hand, people. But before we start, I want to remind you guys, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to bet the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL, entertainment, political props. You should head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, BetOnline. The game starteth here. A deep breath is the best I can do before we get going into today's stuff. Again, follow at Dan Besbris. You can follow Old Man Squad as well on social. And please remember, I almost forgot, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button right out of the chute here. This is a big deal. It helps sort of drop the show into the various algorithms. People see them. Everybody gets reminded and so on and so forth. Subscribe, however you're taking in the content. That's a big, big deal. And if you're listening after the fact, which, by the way, love you because the ads you guys here pay me like 8 times more than the YouTube ones. If you're listening after the fact, hit that 5-star button on Apple or Spotify. And if you want to write something on Apple, that's super cool of you. Let's go through it chronologically. The Bucks, really the only story for Milwaukee right now is what Giannis's status is for the ball game. He's questionable. If he misses it, that means big-time Bobby Portis is coming in hot. The Cavaliers, not a fantasy question, but can they keep the streak alive? Cleveland, one of two teams in the NBA that, as of now, remains undefeated. The Thunder are the other one. Cleveland looks like a damn wrecking machine. They don't even have Max Strus right now. Not that he's, like, the biggest key to their success, but he certainly doesn't hurt them. That's quite a team. Warriors, and we're going to try to move through this. I want to get through each team in about 15 to 30 seconds if I can, so that this show altogether is in the 20 to 30-minute range. Warriors, is Steph back? Sounds like he was a participant at shoot-around today, so he is very, very close. And then how does that impact Buddy Hield and Brandon Pajemski? My personal assumption on this is that Hield is still going to get enough shots to be fantasy relevant, although, again, I don't think 15 shots in 22 minutes is a sustainable number for Buddy. But Pods, he's outside the top 200. He's like 198 or something right now, so he's basically a top 200 guy with the extra playing time. So not a great sign there. The Wizards, Bilal, Alex Sarr, these guys are cooking right now. And we know that. But what about Bub Carrington? His last two games have been kind of intriguing from a fantasy standpoint with decent rebounds, assists, and steals. Is that something then that can keep up long-term, or is that something that's Kyle Kuzma related? Is it a little bit of both? I don't think we're fighting for him right now on the wire. But we might be soon if this type of thing keeps up. Lakers, did moving D'Angelo Russell into that sort of like second wave with Anthony Davis, did that fix him? Basically, switching who D'Lo's playing with, as opposed to D'Angelo Russell with LeBron or with Austin Reeves. Now it's D'Lo with AD, LeBron with AD, or LeBron with Austin Reeves as they sort of like mix and match to get through the rest periods between the beginning of the ball game and, the end of each half. I like the first initial note is possibly, so that would be a good one, and that would make D'Lo a much easier buy low. Can Tobias Harris and Jalen Duren keep it going for the Detroit Pistons? This is going to be a tougher game for Duren, although he's going to offensive rebound his butt off against the Lakers. He's going to have trouble defensively, though. We know Duren struggles on defense. The Lakers are going to exploit that every chance they get. I'd be a little bit worried about foul trouble, so maybe not the best game to analyze Jalen Duren's growth in, but look, if he hangs in there with AD and doesn't get into foul trouble, then great. That's like a double win. And then Tobias has been much better lately. He's pushed himself up inside the top 100, a couple more good games the way he's had, and he'll be a top 70 guy, and so on and so forth. And if he happens to have one big ball game, which would be great, then we'll really be cooking. As it stands, I think you could probably still get him on the cheap. I would. Celtics, Payton Pritchard is on a crazy heater right now, and with Jaylen Brown out, he's a guy that should be in lineups. I don't know that Pritchard's heater can hold once the Celtics, again, are fully healthy, and he's firing from downtown in that sort of like bench gunner role, which felt, again, like he was outpacing what the numbers would have suggested. But right now, you don't have to worry about that because Brown is out. So that puts, 20 shots back in the pool. For the Hawks, is Jalen Johnson's shot back? Because his last ball game was monstrous. And if he has another one of those, then, well, we can all just blow the streamers out and have ourselves a night. You can also talk a little bit about Zachary Reese-Shea, who's getting more action with Bogdan Bogdanovic and DeAndre Hunter both still out. But he's not a guy I really want in Roto at the moment anyway. Head-to-head, that's fine. Your Memphis Grizzlies. Scotty Pippen, Santi Aldama, those guys safe. What about Jalen Wells? That's probably the bigger question. And we'll get to the injury replacement board a little bit later on. But just as a preface here, Jalen Wells has started with Bane and Smart out. And he's been fine in both games, but nothing special. So I would lean... Certainly, if you're talking about a games cap, I would lean towards probably no. And then head-to-head, you're not doing anything this week until at least Wednesday, preferably Thursday, depending on what your Wednesday team schedule looks like. But don't use moves today. It's a 15-damn game day, head-to-head players. Brooklyn Nets. Is Nick Claxton a buy low? Because the information on his injury recovery is a little bit nebulous. We know he's sitting a lot of back-to-backs right now. We know that his minutes have been weird. It sounds like he might actually play today, which would mean no more back-to-back rest. He had 5 fouls in 21 minutes on Sunday, so that also kind of tamped the minutes down. But he hasn't really gotten above 24, 25 yet. So how long is this process going to be? I don't love Nick Claxton overall this year, but compared to where he's at right now, you might be able to get him on the cheap. Sacramento, Kevin Huerter's status is probably the one thing floating. Not that it's a big deal, but it did give Malik Monk a giant opening in their last ball game in Toronto. So if Huerter's out, does that mean you fire up a Keon Ellis? Do you fire up a Malik Monk? There's a little bit of uncertainty there, and so maybe you just shy away from all of it and not blow a games cap. I try to use that as an expression. No, blow a games cap. Come on, man. Don't blow a games cap instead of a gasket. Heat. Nothing. I don't even... Bam finally had a big ball game. I really just, the Heat bore the crap out of me. I'm sorry. Maybe I should like it more, but I am fully bored by the Heat. Jimmy Butler can't shoot free throws this year for some reason. He's a massive negative there. That's likely to pivot, and when it does, suddenly he goes back to being a top 30 guy. But I don't think you can buy low on him because his other stuff is not that far away from expected markers. Well, maybe you can. I don't know. In any event. For the Utah Jazz, Colin Sexton has me truly worried. He should have a long leash in terms of how long you're going to hang on, even if it's going poorly. But we all knew it. We saw him jump up into that 80 range in the last Yahoo board, and everybody knew it. We all pointed and went, nope, that's too early. We've ruined it. I liked him a lot in the 110 range. I did not like him in the 80 range. That was he has issues with his fantasy game to begin with. He needs to have the ball in his hands a lot. And then the Jazz tanking stuff was always going to be kind of hanging over the year. I'm worried, man. I'll admit it. I'm worried. I'm not going to tell you guys to drop yet. I think it's premature on that front because we're only, 12, 13 days into the season. But I'm not going to hold forever. A couple more weeks. Chicago Bulls, is Josh Giddey a buy low? And someone immediately on Twitter, when I put this out there, was like, how can he be buy low? He's putting up decent numbers. That person apparently is playing in a points league, is the best thing I can guess, because Giddey's shooting 44% from the field, 56 the free throw line. Those are unacceptably poor numbers, and so his overall rank is in the 160s. if you're playing in someone in category leagues who sees his rank in the 160s, that's a person you could potentially offer a trade to. If you're talking about a points league, probably not. And therein is the split. Can Ayo Dosunmu have any value? Oh, son of a gun, I filled my water and I left it on the other side of the room. All right, we'll pause in a minute. Ayo is a guy whose fantasy game I've always liked, but the problem, of course, is even though his minutes are back up now with Lonzo Ball out, the usage isn't really, because you've still got Kobe White and Zach LaVine and Josh Giddey and Vooch. All these guys are in front of him. So not only does he need 28, 29, 30 minutes, he needs to actually be involved a little bit. And at the moment, he is not. The New York Knicks have nothing, really. You start the starters. That's an easy one. Houston, will the bench guys go back to playing 20 minutes, or did they earn a couple more in that last ball game? I'm inclined, sadly, to believe that they probably go back to just 20 minutes. But Tari Eason is showing he can have value in very close to 20 minutes. Steals number's probably not going to hold. It's a little bit on the high side at like 3 a game, pretty much. And same deal with Amen Thompson. These guys are going to be a little bit frustrating because of the minutes being kind of capped a little bit. But if the Rockets start to look in a different way, more small ball, if they bench Zubats, if Jalen Green is cold, which happens and it gets ugly, if Dylan Brooks is, I don't know, just taking terrible shit. Like, there are ways what you could see some more bench guys get in there. The easiest one is somebody just out, but that hasn't happened yet. So try to hold is basically where I'm sitting with that. The Hornets, did Brandon Miller's return ruin Trey Mann? I think probably. Can center edition Grant Williams be a thing? I think maybe. Maybe. Timberwolves, what's my patience going to be like with Mike Conley and or Dante DiVincenzo? I don't have any Dantes, not a single one, on any of my fantasy teams because someone always took him at like 100, and I wanted to take him at like 115, and he just never made it that far in any of my drafts for reasons I can't completely understand because it always felt like Golden State version DiVincenzo was kind of what he was set to be with this Wolves team. So what am I waiting on here? Well, Conley shooting 26% to me is we got to wait a little bit because if his value is still terrible once the field goal percent crawls up into the 40s, then I'll get it. But right now, he's shooting awfully. And if he wasn't, I think he'd be startable. DiVincenzo, on the other hand, yeah, the numbers are bad, but he typically is kind of bad in percentages. And so, for the Magic, is it Mo Wagner time? But Tadze isn't back. Well, was he questionable? Goga might be back. Wendell Carter Jr. might be hanging around. Watch the news. Thunder. Alex Caruso. Is Alex Caruso a drop? Probably. I hate it. I hate that I'm saying it, but I think he might be a drop. And that might be like our first big clunker. Because I had him, someone that I really liked taking in the 90s, and it doesn't look like he's going to get there. Which is a pisser, because if I had dropped him back 1 bucket on my ranks, then I would have ended up with, well, I only have 1 Alex Caruso, which I guess is fortunate because for some reason, he kept going like 5 or 6 slots earlier than I thought he would. And it always got to me in like the middle of the 8th round. And I was like, well, should I go Caruso or should I go like Jakob Poeltl? And I almost always went Poeltl because I was like, these centers, I don't have enough center stuff. Or should I go Caruso or should I go Jalen Suggs? And I started to go more Suggs. And I was like, oh, thank God. So mild bullet dodged, I guess, but you guys don't want to hear about how I lucked into not having him. I think he's probably going to be the first real bust. But it's hard to call like a late 8th, early 9th rounder a bust. But I mean, that's where he's at right now because you could have had someone who was useful and he hasn't been. Trailblazers, how long before we get more Scoot? I hope not long. I have him in one place where I'm punting all the big stats. Or, you know what I mean. Pelicans, will they soon have none of their starting 5? Because it sure feels like we're on our way there. Brandon Ingram is very much the last man standing. He's the full Jon Snow against the army at the moment, and the not winning it. Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins are the guys that you're looking at as the fill-ins there. Yves Missi, who I didn't put on my list here, is a watch list guy for me right now. He's interesting. No doubt he's interesting, but he hasn't really used that starting job yet. And let's take a very quick commercial break while I fetch my water. A lot of talking today, folks. A lot of talking here with the long weekend recap and then right into a 30-teamer. Pacers. They got a few guys hurt right now. So for the first time in a long while, we're actually kind of paying attention to what's going on with the others on this Pacers roster. Like, is Benedict Mathurin streamable right now? Is Ben Shepherd streamable? Is TJ McConnell streamable? That's the one that I want in my heart of hearts. But I also don't want to do anything before the fact, if that makes any sense. I don't have a whole lot of questions on the Mavericks right now. Maybe just where Clay kind of ends up from a numbers standpoint, but not much else. You know, we know Luka's going to get it sorted out, and Gafford and Lively are both playable, and PJ Washington's been pretty good so far. The Raptors, and we talked about this on the weekend recap show a little bit. We know Grady Dick is a play when with IQ out and Scotty Barnes out and Bruce Brown out and Kelly Olynyk out. But do we trust Davion Mitchell and Ochai Agbaji as plays as well? Maybe. Mitchell probably more so because he's getting the point guard stats, even if his percentages probably hurt you more. And then, like, with Agbaji, he's been extraordinarily efficient in this job. But is that really what we're hunting? Do we want efficiency without much in the way of upside? I think I'd probably tilt more towards the upside guy. And that's Mitchell. For the Nuggets, this is a bit now because he's done it 6 times in a row. Can Christian Braun do it again? Let's make it 7. Let's go lucky number 7. I'll tell you, though, Brown is probably due for a clunker in one of these. Just be ready for it and be ready to go, he was due. Sixers. Can it be less ugly, please? I don't have fantasy notes on them beyond what we've already been doing. Phoenix Suns. Is Yusuf Nurkic toast? He was better. He had a lot of rebounds in their last ball game, which, you know, it's a start. But he's outside the top 200. His minutes don't appear to be safe in any meaningful way with Mason Plumlee there and a willingness to go small ball against particular opponents. And again, I mentioned this on the recap show. I think it's important to see who the Suns are playing on a given night. And Andre Drummond is on the other side, so you might see Nurkic. The Suns are going to have the question of, do we put someone out there to try to deal with Drummond, or do we just run Drummond off the court? Because they go small ball, they'll score every time. But if Philly misses, Drummond's going to get an offensive rebound every time. So there has to be some kind of balance there for the Suns, and we'll see what they do tonight. But you guys know me. There was almost no one that I faded harder this year than Yusuf Nurkic at his ADP. I didn't want anything to do with that dude. And I only have him in a higher bucket because I had him as like a if you're punting free throw kind of spot, but I don't want anything to do with him if you guys listen to those shows. So what should you do? I don't feel really comfortable telling you because I never wanted him to begin with. I don't know what you should do. Talk to somebody who has him. San Antonio, is Chris Paul the best? Like, just the best? I had to do it because I wanted to. You guys know how much I love the old man stuff. I don't think Chris Paul's going to shoot 50%. He's obviously on a little bit of a heater right now to fire his rank way up the board. But dude is a 4th rounder right now. CP3. Man. I think I only have him in one spot, and I'm so sad about it because everybody knows I wanted him, and maybe that's why I didn't get him. Pisser. Want more Chris Paul. And then the Clippers, this again is more of a reality note, but it has a lot of fantasy intertwine, which is, can the team stay afloat? Clippers got to figure out a way to win some ball games right now to buy time for Kawhi Leonard to get back. And we don't know how long that's going to be, but if it's a while and they're bad, then they probably just sort of toss it into the scrap heap. We're going to need the Clippers to play better, and it's got to be now. So let's get going, guys. Let's get going. And here is Oh, good Lord. The injury replacement board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 guys, most of whom I trust. And that's the really interesting thing about the board. By the way, Goga Batadze just got ruled in. Wendell Carter Jr. just got ruled out. So you will now see me switch Mo Wagner off of the injury replacement board in real time because he and Goga are probably going to split those minutes. So here we go. Here's the guys I trust the most. Buddy Hield, if Steph is out. We don't have word on that yet. If Steph is back in, you can bump Hield down to a guy that I don't trust a ton, but maybe a little itty bitty bit. Other guys that I think are really good, obviously Norman Powell, who I remain skeptical that he'll have value if or when Kawhi returns. So he's sort of like a throw-in. Gradey Dick is probably the other safest injury replacement play today with 4 Raptors rotation guys on the shelf. Second tier of guys, and these are guys that I still like a fair amount. I just don't think they're going to explode the way that some of these other ones might. These are good ones. Payton Pritchard with Jaylen Brown out. Scotty Pippen Jr. and Santi Aldama with Bane and Smart out for Memphis. John Collins, I don't know that he's going to get a ton of minutes, but he's going to be pretty efficient with whatever he gets, and that plays in fantasy. Jose Alvarado and Jordan Hawkins for the Pelicans. Kelly Oubre and Andre Drummond for the Sixers. And then my lowest tier today, which, folks that are watching, you see, these are the zero burger guys. These are the ones that I think are kind of a coin flip to have top 100 or better. Toumani Camara in Portland. That's a Shaedon Sharpe deal. Davion Mitchell and Ochai Agbaji in Toronto. We just talked about them a minute ago. I think there's a shot. And for Mitchell, like if we can get some assists and steals without a ton of turnovers, that would get it done. For Agbaji, he has to hit 50% of his shots or it's probably not going to happen. So those guys are kind of hovering. Mitchell, probably my favorite of them, just on the chance that he gets like an 8 or 9 assist ball game. It could happen. Camara, probably my second one, since you're hunting the boards, the steals, things like that. And then Agbaji, some threes on good percentages is fine, but it's an easier thing to find floating around out there. Yeah, there's some value. But then here's the other thing. Like, do you need this board today? Because all of your guys are going. For Roto, you could make an argument to go get the guys that we think are going to be really good injury replacements. They might be better than your 10th or 11th guy, and so you pop them in and pop your plotting guide out. Head-to-head, you're definitely not using a roster move today. Do not. And I know this show isn't usually about like how to stream your head-to-head week because we just did a whole damn show about that. Go back 2 shows and listen to the week 3 preview. But do not, I repeat, head-to-head players, do not use a roster move today or tomorrow on a 15-gamer and a 0-gamer. Your roster move should be used Wednesday to Sunday this week and preferably Thursday to Sunday of this week. That's if you have a relatively full or all the way full Wednesday card, because this week is really busy. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Go back to that week 3 preview show. We go through all the teams that have good schedule this week, the few that have really bad schedules, but certainly head-to-headers do not use a move today. These names that we've got circled on the board and we just talked about, it's more about Roto Games Cap players, I think, with this one. But head-to-head leaguers, if you're like, this is something you maybe could have done before the week began, perhaps, or if you have a ton of moves you can use and one of these guys strikes you as better than your 10th best dude. But like, unless you have more players hurt than your bench size, you will have a full roster today. Look at that, guys. We kept it to 25 minutes. How about them apples? A 30-team preview. Now, we moved through it at a pretty quick clip. And a lot of the news right now, a lot of the stuff we're watching isn't about rotation changes or players emerging that we hadn't expected. That's the first week and a half. We're through that now. Now we're into the first big wave of injuries, and that's why this injury board is so absurdly long. And look, I'll put this out on social media as well. We can discuss it. Other names might pop up throughout the day as guys get ruled out. But this is where this is a starting point here. A little before lunchtime on the Pacific Coast, still, 4 and some odd hours until the actual NBA card begins. Oh my goodness. I am wiped, folks. I need to not talk into a microphone loudly or yell positive reinforcement things at a kid's little league team for a little bit because I am vocally cooked. I am also at Dan Bespris on social. That's where I can do my damage without having to yell and use my voice. DANBESBRIS. Hit that like button. Don't forget to do that, YouTubers. It's actually like it really does matter. Write 5-star reviews, Apple, Spotify, folks. And remember, subscribe before you close that window. That's it for today. Tomorrow, I believe I'll be hanging out. I might be doing 4 pods tomorrow. That's a bad idea, said the guy who just said his voice is cooked. Well, there's going to be a bunch. We'll have, obviously, the huge Monday review, which was going to be a long show. And then I have these really cool ideas that I maybe will deploy one of them tomorrow on down day, or maybe it'll just be a one-show Monday or a one-show Tuesday. I haven't made up my mind on that front yet. Subscribe. That's how you'll know, ultimately, what the hell we do. And in the meantime, I'll see you guys when I see you. I'm Dan. You knew that. Bye-bye.